Well, hey everyone, how we doing out there today? This is the Flip Flop Investor Show, and I am your host, Todd Bayer, the Flip Flop Investor himself. Every week we like to get together and talk about real estate investing here in the Inland Empire. And every week I like to get together with a local expert or a local investor who, could talk to us about what they do in their real estate careers. And today we have a fellow lender on the show, Travis Mullen. How you doing today, Travis?
Good. How you doing, Todd?
Doing pretty good, man. Now you're with Orchard Funding, right?
Yes, sir.
Where's Orchard Funding based out of?
We have an office in Mar Vista, which is right by Venice and Culver. And we have one in Scottsdale and one in Denver.
No kidding. You guys are like multi-state.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So what do you guys specialize in?
We're pretty much primarily set up for fix and flip.
Fix and flip. So all those investors out there that want to buy these houses that are just pieces of junk, right? And then put some money into them, fix them up, and then resell them to a retail buyer.
Exactly.
And so how long you guys been in the business?
We have a partner company that's based out of Denver called Merchants Mortgage. They've been doing it for about 40 years.
Wow.
Pretty much all hard money and fix and flip. And then we've been doing it. Orchard was formed in about 2012-ish, like 6-7 years ago.
Okay. How'd that company start about? Because you were telling me about the founders and how they started up Orchard. So how did that all come to pass?
So two of our founders were flipping. They started doing a couple flips in Arizona around after the crash.
Okay.
09, 10. And
What
they bought a
great
few.
time to do them, by the way.
Yeah. Well, no, they were buying them, and nobody was buying. Nobody had money. Nobody was lending.
Yeah.
So they formed the partnership with merchants back then, and they started buying. And they actually ended up thinking they could really scale it, and they ended up with 700 homes that they fixed up and held until the market came back up. So It was like a fund, and they rented them until the market came up. Then they started selling them off.
Nice.
And then they kept a few like in a nice part, and then they formed Orchard Funding with all that money.
Very nice. So do they still have property out in Arizona?
They have some, yeah.
Yeah, are they still doing that, or they don't flip anymore?
No, they don't flip anymore. They don't want to think about it anymore.
Just lending.
They call it brain damage.
Yeah, I can totally relate because I had a very similar kind of startup experience. I was doing flips, and then I got into lending.
Yeah,
and once I drank the Kool-Aid in lending, that's my favorite style of investing. I've made that pretty obvious to a lot of folks, and lending is my favorite just because of the passive nature of it, and the fact that it's you can kind of get involved in the deal, but not really. I mean, you get involved in the very beginning. If it makes sense, it's good. You do the deal, and then you sit and just collect your payments, which I like. That's simple,
I've noticed how much they like that because they don't have to think about the tiles, and they don't have to think about the flooring.
Right.
And they don't have to think about what's on trend or anything.
Yep, exactly.
The flippers have to think about that.
They do, and that's the nice part. And, there's plenty of people that listen to the show that are, just regular homeowners. A lot of people aren't investors, but they're looking to become an investor. That's a very common person that listens to the show because I meet these folks. They come and talk to me and say, hey, I heard your radio show. And actually, it's funny. They tell me, I heard some guy on the radio, and he said to come to this meeting. And I'm like, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, it's funny because it's happened to me like 10 times now.
You're just some guy.
Just some guy at the meeting, just some nice guy that's showing him around. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, that was me on the radio that told you to come down. So, but anyway, these people come and they have their mortgage. And, it's like if you lose your job, or some kind of horrible thing happens and, you can't make your mortgage payment that month, the lender's not going to just be like, it's okay, just pay me next month. The lender's still going to send you the bill, and if you don't pay them their rent, they're going to foreclose. That's just the way that lenders get their their capital returned back to them. But it's nice being the lender because I don't have to worry about any of those things that are happening. If the roof caves in, I don't have to worry about that. It's not my problem. It's the owner's problem.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's that for me is kind of what got me into like lending and then kept me in lending. Was because I've had to deal with so many of these different flip type problems that the partners that started Orchard Funding I'm sure had to deal with too, where it's every little thing.
It's insane how many things can happen.
Oh man, like there's this stage that a rehab flip can get into at the very end. I call it the doorbell stage because it's always, I don't know what it was when I was doing my first set of flips. I would always come to the house when they say it's done and the doorbell didn't work. Yeah, I don't know why it was.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it was like the doorbell. I'm like, come on, guys, can I get a working doorbell in here? Like, why are there two wires sticking out of this thing? There's supposed to be a doorbell there. Why are we at it was always like that last 5% that needs to get done. And I call it the doorbell stage because it was always the doorbell.
Yeah, and the real estate sign-up stage is like when people come in and rob the appliances. And they told me about that happening sometimes.
Yep, that's happened to us, especially like here in San Bernardino. They almost
stopped, I think they created a tactic to not put the sign up.
Right.
Until like an actual open house or something.
Yeah, and there've been cases where we've not even put the appliances in, and we've put a picture of the appliance, in it's place and said, this will be
a cardboard cutout.
Yep. No, we've never done the cardboard. That's kind of a good idea. But so we've done that, like where there's pictures, but sometimes you don't know, and sometimes the appliances stay put and nothing ever happens. But sometimes, you have a realtor walk through and they call you and they say, "Hey, it looks like somebody might have stolen the stove, the microwave." You're like, "Oh, okay, yeah." That's always annoying,
especially when you're putting in nice stuff for like a nice area or something.
Yeah, stainless steel. Yeah, everything. It's tough. So you guys do lending, fix and flip, which, I obviously have a lending company too. And, I know we're always just, arguing back and forth. It's a constant wrestle between the two of us of who's going to get the client. But no, like I don't really work for the lending company. I just own it. And, they handle that stuff. So, but you guys come out to the club and, you probably meet some people there that are doing the fix and flips. Have you had much success like with meeting people doing loans and
at Inland Empire? Specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple. I'd say maybe 2 to 5 clients that I've talked to, and then 2 of them have actually closed deals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably more than I've done.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, and I remember because Joanna was telling me that you guys, because you guys are a sponsor of the club, which was kind of a thing where you're like I don't know if I should sponsor this because.
The rehab loan group.
Because the rehab loan group is also, a sponsor of the club. And it's like, but I try to do my absolute best to like not even mention it. That's my goal. Because the thing about the club is I want everybody that comes to the club to have access to all the tools that are available out there. And if rehab loan group fits your bill, cool. If not, Orchard Funding is also there. Like, you got Travis right over here. He handles their own program because you guys have your own stuff going on too. You got your own products, and they're probably better than ours in some cases. And certain borrowers sometimes we might be like, no, we can't do that, but maybe you guys can. So we tend to. I like to think that we kind of work behind the scenes together.
That's good. Yeah.
That's kind of the way I like to look at it. So I don't know. We appreciate your sponsorship of the club because it helps us cover the opening networking session. For the happy hour thing that we do before the meeting.
It's a good club. You have a lot of people. I've been to a lot of meetups.
Yeah. Well, you're going to one tonight.
It's a good one.
You're going to my second favorite one tonight.
Yeah. Phoebe, Pasadena. Yeah. Inland Empire, though, almost has like the biggest crowd I've seen.
Yeah.
And I've gone to like almost all of them.
It's insane. Like I mean, because we don't sell anything, that. Like we don't sell any kind of products or books or anything like that at the meeting. So people, they come and I don't know what their expectation is because a lot of folks that come are new. About 40% of the people that show up at every meeting is going to be like a first timer. They've never been before. So they come and they're like, I think they're expecting somebody to make a presentation on stage that says, buy into this program and, we'll bring deals to your computer and you can just buy them online. I don't know what they're expecting, but it seems like that's what they're, and like, then when we don't do that, when we're just like, hey, we're just a bunch of investors getting together and we just network, it seems like that keeps bringing them back. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not an expert in this.
No, those are definitely the better meetups is when you're not being sold hard on something, some guru package.
Yeah.
Which those are kind of hard to hear because they'll push them really hard sometimes.
Yes, they do. Like, have you been?
I've been to some of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the big, have you ever signed up for one of those things?
No.
No?
No, I'm not. I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
I mean, but to their credit, like all the ones I was skeptical of, I've heard people say great things.
Yeah.
So it was my own skepticism.
Yeah, there's one that I've brought up on the air a few times before, which is one called Fortune Builders.
Yeah.
Started by a guy named Than Merrill, which a lot of people have probably heard of just from he had a show on HGTV or something like that.
He's blowing up.
Yeah.
My uncle in Iowa said, have you heard about this guy? And then I just got a new borrower in LA, did an amazing flip, and she was trained by Fortune Builders. So, I've had other ones where they went through some guru training and then they end up not knowing how to value a property and their deal kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
Like I've seen both sides. So
it happens.
I think they're all, it's probably what people put in people's capacity as well.
True. And, I think a lot of people sign up for stuff like that because they're expecting like a one size fits all kind of like
turnkey idea.
Turnkey, like do this and you're off to the races. But when it comes to finding deals, there's no Amazon.com for deals.
Yeah.
You can't just log onto a computer and have a deal right in your face and you're the only person looking at it.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Like,
you have to work it.
You have to work it. Yeah, you got to work it. You got to know people. You have to be good at explaining what's going on. Like, not every person actually is going to benefit from an all cash offer. Some people just want to sell their home the regular way. They're not in a hurry. Like, there's no need for them to take a discount on the sale. They're not in any kind of rush. There's no problem with the home, and sometimes you meet these investors that are just bullheaded, and they go straight into a seller and they're just like, I can offer you $60,000 for the house, and like, the person's like, I have it listed for 190. Like, I'm not taking a $60,000 offer,
Yeah.
And I've dealt with these people, they've called me when I've had houses for sale. And I'm like, have you looked at the house? Have you even seen it? It's renovated already, right?
It's like the same people if you're selling a car on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And they offer you 500 and it's worth like 3,000.
Right.
Or 10,000 or whatever. They
Sure.
offer you like a quarter of that.
Yeah. And you're like, why would I sell it to you for that? I have no need to sell it right now. But
Yeah.
these people get stuff too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
They're playing a numbers game. If they ask 20 people and one person says yes, then they just got a major discount.
Yeah.
And everyone says that about houses. But, sellers are not. They're not all, there may be some that don't really know. They're ignorant to what their house is worth, but they're not all of them are in a hurry, like you said. And some of them actually know what their house is worth.
Right.
And maybe they don't want a realtor, but they still have an idea.
Sure.
So they feel offended when you offer them something so bad.
Yeah. Well, but
to be sensitive.
Sometimes they're ignorant in the wrong direction in the sense that they have an idea of what their house is worth because Zillow told them,
in
my house
positive direction.
Right. My house is worth $500,000. But like, no, yours is probably more like 330, and they're like, no, but Zillow says it's worth 500. You're like, yeah, but Zillow's not, like, appraising is not a science. Valuation is not a science. There's an art to it. And your home, is missing a roof. Like that's, that means you've dropped.
I think some of those valuations are probably just based on square footage in that area.
For the most part, and like if you like, okay, if Zillow were to value like a neighborhood that was built in 2019 and every single home was 4 bedrooms and 2 baths and 2,200 square feet, if that was every home in this neighborhood and they all look identical and nothing about them is like there's no pools, no nothing, then every house would be worth exactly the same because the entire house and whole entire neighborhood is exactly the same, brand new, nothing's out of the ordinary. But as soon as you get in these neighborhoods where they're built in like the 50s, and like some homes are 2 bedrooms and 1 bath, and then some of them are like people have added on over the years. Now there's like a bunch of 4-bedroom homes in this. Like values they get, you could like houses right next door to each other could be $100,000 off.
Yeah,
because of the amenities and things like that.
And then I've seen where an addition wasn't done very well, but the square footage says it should be worth this.
Right.
But you go in the house and you're like, this is not nice. Like the square footage shouldn't count.
Like, am I supposed to be stepping down into this area? Yeah.
Was this permitted? I don't know.
No,
it's showing up online somehow.
It was funny. I saw this video on YouTube. It was an April Fool's joke this contractor out in Texas did, and he was like showing you how to pour concrete. Like he was like, this is the $1 a square foot method for pouring concrete. And he's like going through all these methods. Like he's like, you don't need all this stuff. You can just pour it right on top of the grass. That's all the fiber that you need. Like it's gonna hold the concrete together. Like he was doing this whole thing, and I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Like, is this guy smoking crack or something? And then after at the very end of it, he got me. He's like, now you want to like write your name in the concrete. He's like put your name down here, the date that you did it, and he's like starting to write in the big old bold print April Fools in the concrete. I'm like, oh man, he got me. But it just made me think like there are people that do this because he's pulling this information from examples he's seen actually out in the field, where you're like, what did they do? Did they just pour the concrete right on top of the dirt that was here? Like, and so
I think that's how my back patio is done.
At your home?
It's all cracked.
No kidding. Yeah, we actually just looked at a house just recently out in Rancho Cucamonga where the entire back half of the house was done as an addition illegally, and like part of this like foundation has now gone into like kind of a sinkhole almost.
Oh man.
And like
it's not fun.
We're like, okay, so they obviously didn't do any soils or compaction, like none of the stuff you're supposed to do to prep the area. So it's an expensive fix because this is a concrete slab, and so it's always fun when you deal with these problems, but this is the stuff that we get to deal with as investors. That's a problem that these people are having. It's like they have no money to be able to fix this thing, so we come in and we can fix it and make it a good house now for somebody to come in, and now a bank will finance it, and they can have a regular home. It's kind of the nice thing. That's the niche that hard money fills. And
they can repair, like a good flipper can fix all that if they want to take it on.
Yeah.
Like a bad foundation, or some people have really poor foundations. It's crazy.
Oh man.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And
but it turns that house from a, piece of junk into something really good.
Exactly.
Once it's done right.
Right. And that's, a lot of people don't understand that, if you have a house that's like completely messed up like that, with a foundation issue like that, you can't get a mortgage on it. It's unlendable because no bank is going to lend on a home that's in that condition. So, that's where hard money lenders come in, like Orchard Funding, because you guys will do the loan on a property like that, knowing that that's going to get fixed in the process. So you're going to hold back a fund control, right? Like you're going to hold back funds for the rehab, I'm assuming.
We can, or we don't have to.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, it depends on what they want to borrow.
Okay, so if you have like a higher loan to value, I'm sure you guys would probably want to hold back funds.
Not necessarily, but we'd like to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not necessarily. If they want 90 purchase, we'll do 90 purchase. If they want 80 purchase, we'll do that.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. That's, very competitive. And they're, but you guys obviously, that they're going to fix this foundation issue before you do the loan. And then now that they fix this thing, now they can sell it to what I call a retail buyer. Before, this is somebody who's going to buy it. Then they can get a mortgage like from a regular bank, and then they can live in it like a regular home.
Maximize the value.
Maximize the value, exactly. And that's the incentive for the flipper. They're trading this problem, this foundation that's fallen into a sinkhole. They're trading that problem for some of the equity, and then they make a little bit of money because they're doing a service for the community. And it's, have you dealt much with like code enforcement or like city planning and safety, any of those departments?
I haven't known myself, but I hear what's going on with borrowers sometimes, like what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like 3 months takes a city to do something or approve something.
Yeah.
Or a house is not up to code and we have to consider, issues with closing, whether or not, code violations. If these are going to be, we have to see how they're going to be fixed.
Exactly.
In order to know that it's going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Like that.
That's one of those funny things that these cities do is they have like in a home like that has like this foundation sinking into a sinkhole, and like obviously the roof is collapsed too because with the foundation goes the rest of the structure, right? So we go to these when we're going to buy these properties, oftentimes code enforcement has already issued a citation against the home, for the unpermitted addition, and in addition all the other stuff that's wrong with it, and they have this lien on title. So when you go to close and purchase this property, there's this lien there, and the only way to get rid of it is to fix it. But
you need the money to fix it.
Yeah, you need the money, and the new buyer has to fix it. So we have to close, and we have to get a title company to bond around this lien that's on title and leave it. We have to leave the lien on title, in order to finish this property and do all the work that the city's requiring.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like when you talk to the cities, you're like, can you just transfer the lien to us? Like, do we have to leave it in place? Like, I'd rather it get reissued, because it holds up deals. It actually causes more problems, and I don't understand it. Then they make it so hard for you to like fix these problems. Like, I'm trying to do your guys' community a bit of good here.
Yeah.
Fix up this house so it's a nice, thing.
You'll have one, solidified house here in this block.
Yeah.
One more than you used to.
Exactly.
If you let us fix this.
Right. And I don't know why there's so much backlash. It's probably because there's a lot of investors that don't do it the right way.
Yeah, that's probably it.
And when they don't do it the right way, it gives the rest of us good investors a bad name, and so we have to fight this uphill battle sometimes to like fix the properties and make the communities nicer, which is really odd to me. But, I'm just asking because I know as a lender, it's come up with us numerous times, where we're going to close and escrow's like, hey, no, there's this lien. What are we going to do here? And title's saying, in order to close, we have to bond around it.
Yeah.
Meaning that if any kind of title issue arises, that issue right there gets to stay on title. So, if there's some big city lawsuit that you didn't know about related to that could become your responsibility down the road. So, a lot of fun. A lot of fun that is.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah. So, when you do loans, are you pretty much like around LA area mostly, or do you do a lot of stuff like all over?
Pretty all over. Myself, I'm hitting a lot of LA, Inland Empire, not much Orange County, but a little bit. I have one guy in Orange County who does a lot. And then I'm up in the Bay Area a little bit. I got somebody done a lot in Sacramento, a guy who does a lot in the East Bay, like some of those towns Martinez, Livermore, San Lorenzo.
Yeah.
And then I have 2 in that area.
The affordable areas of the Bay Area. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'd like to reach out more to San Diego and Orange County more too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that we can do all over. And then I got one in Big Bear, which is cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes my guys are a little conservative when it's more out of the norm, out of the normal neighborhoods. But it was a neighborhood in Big Bear, so it was a real community, not an outlier.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of like cabins that are off in the middle of nowhere out in that area.
So they don't like outliers. They like it to be at least in a neighborhood.
Sure.
Where people are living.
Right.
I've had some funny deals brought my way.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Like what have you had?
Like you see something out in the middle of the desert that there's nothing there.
What do you mean by desert? Are you talking like Palm Springs? Or are you talking like?
I mean, this could be like way west Phoenix, like beyond all civilization.
Okay, yeah.
Or this could be out, away from Palm Springs, but near there, but way out.
Yeah.
Or it could be Joshua Tree.
It's on 100 acres.
Yeah, and it'll be like, well, I bought the land outright. And I'm like, okay, how much was the land?
Yeah.
12,000. And I'm like, okay, wait, what land is this?
Yeah.
That's what happens on the call. I'm like, wait, where is this located?
It's completely flat. Don't worry. It's all usable.
It's all ready to build.
Yeah.
Is there any utilities there yet? No, but they're coming.
Yeah, they're coming. Next
stuff like that.
20 years.
It's just far. It's far out. But yeah, that's the funny stuff. And then they'll tell me they're gonna put on like some mobile homes or something. I'm like, okay, we don't do that. But there are lenders that probably would.
Yeah, there are,
and especially land lenders that would do that and stuff like that. But my guys are more interested in like solid house. But it could be like a modular or like a manufactured house, like a prefabbed.
Right,
but
on land,
not like mobile home or anything.
Yeah, because mobile homes are personal property.
Yeah,
whereas if you're gonna actually go through the process of getting a permanent foundation for a mobile home, it's called a 433. If you do that, then you can actually treat it like real estate. It's
all a unit.
Yeah,
owned.
it's all on the same piece of dirt. There's no land lease, because we've done a few of these out here because they're, Inland Empire, like especially if you go to like areas around Paris and stuff. There's a lot of homes that are, it's a mobile home, it's a manufactured home, but it's on a permanent foundation, so it's not going anywhere. And you just. The funny thing is they're a little different, like the homes aren't built like a regular stick-built house. So we've learned a lot about these things in doing them. Like the door jambs are different sizes, and like the pipes are different sizes. Like just little things you don't know until you start doing them, and then your contractor's like, yeah, it took us like 3 hours to do this when normally it would have taken us 20 minutes because we had to keep going down to Home Depot to buy, more fittings and all this stuff. Like, why, and
everything was offsize.
Everything was offsize. They're getting like they had to miter things down. I remember the guy saying, he's like, yeah, we had to like custom make these door jambs. I'm like, really? So otherwise you can order them a lot of times from the manufacturers, but you don't want to sit there and wait for all these door jambs to get delivered from, the manufacturer. So
yeah, they
just made them. And I'm like, okay, well, how much is that going to cost? So
that'd be, we've seen some weird ones, where it's like a 20 unit, what used to be like a hotel or something else, like in Palm Springs or up in like some nice area on the beach, but it's just out of our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It's just not a house.
What do they want to do? They want to convert it from like a hotel to condos or something?
Yeah, there'll be things like that a lot of times.
Huh. Yeah,
so there's definitely a lot of strategies out there.
Yeah, there's
so many.
There's a ton. Yeah.
But our guys are concerned with houses primarily.
Yeah.
And some commercial, but mostly just single family.
It's the biggest buyer pool. You know,
that's the thing. And you eliminate a lot of the risk of like not having buyers for things.
Yeah, because like, if you're gonna do a home on a 100-acre piece of land out in the middle of eastern Phoenix, who's buying that thing?
Very, very small a number.
Yeah, like some guy who's
be that
like,
far out.
He's like, I'm a sand farmer. Like I need as much sand as I
farm.
A cactus farm. There you go. Actually, I met a guy not that long ago who owns a big succulent farm.
Oh,
yeah, like
that's hot right now though.
It is. It's hot, which is kind of funny.
Needs to get it in all the stagers in LA.
Yep, I know.
Stagers in LA will buy that.
Yeah, they will, because Steve went to it was like this multi-million-dollar home up in the Bird Streets in Hollywood, and he just went to go look at this open house, nice place, and like he was laughing because like we had just met that succulent guy like 2 days before that. He's walking around this house, and like everywhere there's all these young succulents like all around this house and on the property. He's like, I wonder if like so and so sold him all these or not. You know, like he's like, there are so many succulents on this property. It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. Succulents. I never thought about it, but it's apparently
It became a thing.
It became a thing.
My wife's into it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the little ones in the little pots.
Yeah,
and
we
stuff?
got it all lining up their front.
Nice. Hey, I don't.
A little bit up on a wall.
Yeah.
Succulent walls are a thing.
Oh, okay. I've seen those before. Yeah, like they have it's like little pods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you guys do these typical like fix and flip loans. Like, what's your typical type of deal look like?
The price points really vary a lot. Like I could have a deal that's 200 price point, and then I could have a deal that's like 1.2, which is fun because it's the same amount of work.
Yeah, but they're like obviously just different areas, right?
Yeah.
It's the dirt that they're sitting on that's worth something. Yeah,
and the size of the rehab. But pretty typical in LA is like a buy around 400 or 500, maybe 6 or 7, and then they're putting usually 150 on the higher end to 180, and then they're going to sell at like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3.
Wow.
For those LA kind of center areas.
Yeah.
And then out Riverside, you know, you got like in your areas, you're probably buying like 1 to 200, maybe 300, and then putting 60 in, and then getting another 100 above that retail. ARV.
Yeah, it's pretty typical.
And then up in the East Bay, it's like he's finding some stuff. He's getting in like 400.
Okay. Wow.
And then selling for like 900.
Wow.
After putting maybe 80 into it.
And that's the affordable part of the Bay Area.
Yeah. But it's a big spread up there, I think, because the Bay Area is pushing out.
It is.
People want to buy a house and they'll commute in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just up there because my brother lives up in the Bay Area, so I was up there, you know, and we went up to San Francisco one day because, you know, you had mentioned you're kind of a foodie. I'm kind of a foodie myself, so there's a lot of like really cool food spots in San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
And my wife and I really wanted to go and get these specific donuts at this one place we've been to before. And
do you know the name?
Oh, I can't think of the name of it right now.
It's not like Voodoo, right? Voodoo's in Portland.
No, not Voodoo.
But Voodoo has another location somewhere. I can't remember what it was.
I'm totally gonna look it up as I'm talking about it. But yeah, like as we're driving in there, I'm like, look at all these like motorhomes and like all these.
Jonathan's looking it up right now.
He's looking it up. Yeah. There's all these. Oh yeah, you brought Jonathan. He's the newest guy at Orchard Funding, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan's new hire.
1 week in.
1 week.
Highly
Oh man.
trained.
He's not quite sullied yet, huh? He's just, you know, he's new. He's green and fresh faced. You know.
He's sharp for it though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No gray hairs yet?
He corrects me already.
Yeah, it's an industry that'll change you a little bit. You guys, actually, when we were driving over here, we were all kind of talking about this a little bit, which, you know, you're moving up into like an upper echelon of income, right? This becomes a higher income thing, becoming a lender. And so when you start making all this extra money, there's this lifestyle that sort of comes along with it, you know, where like you had mentioned, you got a babysitter, you know, which you'd never had before. Your wife
just couldn't afford it before.
Yeah, you couldn't afford it.
My wife could have used it though.
Yeah, I'm sure. Any wives out there that wouldn't like a babysitter to help out or a nanny?
But yeah, my bosses told me watch out for lifestyle creep.
Lifestyle creep. I like that term.
Yeah, they got some terms: brain damage and lifestyle creep.
Okay, so what's this brain damage? You said it to me before.
The minutia of thinking about every detail about a flip.
Okay.
Just kind of gives you brain damage after you've done like 700, I guess. Apparently.
Yeah, and then
after you've done a lot, I guess.
And then the lifestyle creep, like for those people that don't know out there, how do you define lifestyle creep?
That's just, you know, I couldn't afford a babysitter, but now I can, so I do, and now there's like, you know, $1,000 less a month to save, so it's just kind of, you make more money, but then you don't see yourself building up that much because you're saying yes to more things.
Yeah.
And you just have to really rein it in and take control. And it's saying yes to something like, I just took my 4-year-old to Disneyland for his birthday. That would have never happened.
Really?
For a birthday.
Really?
That would have been like a big special occasion.
Like once a year, we just, as a family, are going to go to Disneyland.
I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do that like every year. We'd probably do it every couple years.
So that's because you came from I wouldn't say low wage. It's a very high, what would you call it? Social equity
value.
type of, high, social value kind of thing. You were a pastor before.
Yeah.
You did that for like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably going to be a lot of people right now. They're like, wait a minute, this guy was a pastor before.
And now a lender?
And now you're a lender. like, didn't you just go from one end of the spectrum to the other end?
It was trippy for my parents.
Really?
Like, hard money kind of has a tough name to it, Trav. I'm like,
yeah. It used to.
Yeah, it
used to be a lot of guys with their names would end with like Innie, like Vinny and Bobby, Joey,
Yeah, a lot of broken legs.
Yeah, broken kneecaps, stuff like that. That's kind of the because the idea of hard money.
Our parents' generation like has that mentality about it.
Yeah,
and now it's like what makes a lot of things happen, like flipping and stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, hard money now. We're regulated. This isn't some Wild West thing. Like you're not getting loans from some guy in a back alley.
Yeah.
Like that's the way it used to go down. You tell a guy I need 20 grand, and he'd give you 20,000 in cash. And you better pay him back in a week or two. But it's not like that anymore. I don't think I've ever gotten cash from anybody for anything. So
yeah.
So how do you go from now? Did you grow up like your parents? You said your parents, it was an odd thing for them. Like if you were a pastor, were they involved in the church in that way too?
They were. They got more involved when I got more involved. I kind of led my family more into it. And then, they just really, I was kind of like they just loved that I was a pastor. They loved hearing about it. There's a lot of good stories, a lot of good news all the time.
Right.
And so it was just kind of, they knew it was part of my passion, well, a big passion. And so they were just kind of like, wow, you're making big shifts. And it's like, yeah, I got all these little mouths to feed. I got to figure this out. Like, this is rough. Like what I was doing financially just was never quite cutting it. And so I called my friend who runs Orchard Funding. We went to high school together. We were wrestlers together.
Wrestling buddies, yep.
And I was like, hey, man, I know you've been doing finance since college. I kind of think I need to get involved with a little more zeros.
Okay.
Like, I need to make better money, or I need to move out of California.
Yeah.
That was kind of what it came down to for me. It's like, I got to get into something that's going to make better money, or I got to get out of California.
Yeah.
Because those two don't go together.
Who wants to leave the Sunshine State?
Yeah.
Come on now.
And my wife's from the Ocean State, Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
And she didn't want to leave the ocean and go to like Arizona or something.
Right.
So it's like, well, then I got to make better
money.
But
you found such a great piece of property out in Arizona, that nice piece out in East Phoenix.
Yeah, 100 acres for $12,000.
Yeah, on that sand farm. Well, hey. So, okay. How do you justify that? Because there's probably some people listening, like, how do you go from being a pastor to a hard money lender? How do you justify that, based upon your faith and your background? Because, I mean, that's a big change. And that's, you go from where, I mean, really, I would like to think of a pastor as somebody who's not, in it for the money and that sort of thing. Like, that's not what I think of when I think of a pastor. I'm sure most people feel that way. I know you probably totally get that mentality. Like, what kind of paradigm shift had to go on in your mind in order to accommodate that, where you're now like, okay, this is actually okay?
Yeah. I never really had a mentality that it wasn't okay to make money, but I had a mentality like that shouldn't be my primary motivation. And it wasn't for myself, but as I started to have other mouths to feed, I started to go, I need to make better money for them. And so that actually ends up being an altruistic motive. You're doing it for others. Right. It's not for myself. I'm not trying to make myself big, but I do want to make better money. And then in ministry and in we were serving urban poor in Rhode Island, and I was like hitting up some of my dad's friends for money. I was like thinking of trying to buy a house to make it into like a big ministry center to serve the needs there. And I'm like asking for money for different things, startup things we were trying to do. And I'm like, man, it'd be so nice to not have to worry about money and do what I want to do, like have the ability to do these things. So that became another motive, like I'm sick of money getting in the way.
Right.
Like, and just, everybody's torn because they have 100 things they could give to, and a lot of people might be hitting them up for money. Yeah. So it's like, why not be a contributor rather than taker on the money side of things. And
not just a money contributor, but also a time and, like sort of like the community builder too. Yeah. Yeah. So, because, I mean, that's obviously a big deal. A lot of people, there's a lot of people that tithe quite a bit. It's like how much they give to their church, for certain things, because they recognize they're a high wage earner, and they're like, I want to tithe 10, maybe 20% of my gross earnings to the church. Do you have like a set amount aside that you every single month, if you make a certain amount, you're going to put a certain amount in, or you? Yeah, I pretty much lived on the 10% thing. 10%. Yeah, and it's been crazier when you make more money. Like, wow, that's a lot of money. Yeah, and some people think it's stupid because they're like, you're making negative 10% on your money. Yeah, which is how you, as an investor, how you think about everything. Right. So that's trippy. It is, because I mean, it's hard for them to understand that you would give 10. It's weird for some people to think of it that way, but there's so much social equity that you get out of it, because I mean, people need help in this country. It's obvious. And being able to give back, and not just people in this country, but in the world, and if you're helping people out that are less fortunate, that's social equity, and you can't put a price on that. And so, yeah, maybe negative 10% on the financial side of things is what it looks like. But on the social side, it's, it's worth way more than that. And, that's why I think a lot of people should give. I mean, we give every single year. It's part of what we do as a company. We always make our big donations to like St. Jude's and I can't think of it right now. St. Jude's and the Make-A-Wish Foundation are the two we always give to every year. Because, these are things like we care about and we want to see those organizations furthered and everything. So, we make our donations. I kind of want to ask you, and I don't know how you feel about it or not, and you don't have to talk to me about it if you don't want to, but how does a pastor make money?
Primarily off the church, like giving. That's pretty much it.
Parishioners, they tithe to the church, and then the church basically says, okay, we got X amount of dollars that came in. This is how much we pay our people. Or do you have like a salary? How does that work?
Yeah, they usually have a salary. It's usually salary lower, on the lower side. It could be big at a bigger church, and that's what a lot of people get annoyed with.
Okay.
But for me, I'm another click away from that, though, because like my wife and I are kind of off the grid as far as tithing to a particular church. So we're trying to actually just give the money directly to things.
Okay.
And be a church like more locally, like as a small community.
Do you find that the church, often because they have all these other expenses that they have to pay?
Yeah, it's frustrating.
The amount that actually goes towards the community is such a small amount that you think?
I got fed up with that myself. Myself, I don't even want to. If I could take 60 grand or give 20 grand, that would be amazing in a year. It would be an $80,000 swing for the church of doing good.
Right.
So for me, it's kind of like I want to get off the grid. If people of faith, like as Christians or any faith really, would get off that grid and like actually contribute to causes rather than having to build it into the church. One of my old pastors would say, we got to give because we got to keep the lights on. Right. I'm like, wow, that's uninspiring.
Yeah, it is.
It's really uninspiring. I mean, you could say it better than that,
Yeah. But like we need to keep the lights on so we can keep doing all this good in the community,
or
we need to
keep their lights on,
right?
Not this place we meet once a week.
Sure.
So it was kind of like a shift for me.
Only once a week? Come on now.
Away from the Sunday church thing. Like,
what kind of an armchair Christian are you? No.
Yeah, no, that's how the buildings are used a lot of times. So they're very, very seldomly used.
It's so, I guess maybe sometimes a church might need an investor sort of mind to come in and think, how can we monetize this place a little bit better to improve the impact on the community? Because that's obviously what they do.
And there are some that think like that, and they do a lot better stuff. They do great work when they think like that.
There's a real big one here in the Inland Empire Harvest Church. They're really big. I know they have a very strong investor mindset. I know some people that are members of that church, and same with like the Latter-day Saints people out here. They're very investor minded. So, they do try to put a lot into it. But there's, I think they need these investors. They need people with that sort of a mind because, like how do we get more income in? Obviously, is one way to think of it, and then how do we get more money out to where we can do the most good, have the most impact? That's a big deal.
Yeah, for me, it was a real eye opener when I was a part of multiple churches where they said, we just can't get to that. I'd say there's this need that I really care about, and they'd say, we just can't get to that. We got your guys' salaries, and we got the building. Salaries and building.
Right.
Takes up 90%. So they try to give 10% of a church's giving.
Wow.
10% of a tenth. So it's like 1% of everyone's money is going to something like other than the church itself. So that was frustrating me. And so when you get off the grid of that machine, then you can actually just give directly to something. And so like last fall, I called up an old orphanage that I had hit up when I was a pastor, and I went to Uganda and talked to two orphanages. I worked with two orphanages there. And I called her, and she said, "We're doing great. We have funding on every front except for one thing. We got this trade school. It's going well. We got the orphanages running well. Everything's running well. We got one new project that's medical clinics. We have a doctor, Dr. Phil. His name is.
He will do the Dr. Phil, just a Dr. Phil.
Ugandan Dr. Phil.
Okay.
He will do surgeries for free.
Nice.
But he has to rent the space for $125 per surgery.
Okay.
To get the anesthesiologist, nurse, and the place.
Man, the cost of healthcare in Uganda is just
$125 per surgery. He'll do it for free. I said, how much are we talking? Like, how many surgeries you have lined up? She's like, it's about 70 surgeries and about 30 diagnostic tests that need to get run. And I was like, I might be able to do something about this. I had a big month, and I was like gonna aim it at something. And I was gonna ask other people to match me. And so we ended up doing it, like 70 surgeries, and it costs about 10 grand.
Okay. Wow.
It's trippy.
Yeah.
70 people got hernias removed, tumors removed,
wow.
facial tumors, like crazy stuff. Like they have no care.
Yeah.
No help.
And so you impacted the lives of 70 something people.
Yeah, small group of people were able to do 10 grand.
That's amazing.
Really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so does Orchard take this stance, or is this your own personal line?
That's my own thing, but actually one of the founders helped me with that. It was really cool.
Okay, that was nice.
Yeah, he participated.
But participated individually, not as Orchard.
Yeah, not as Orchard.
Okay, I just want to make sure
I can't speak for Orchard.
I know, exactly. Yeah, we got to give credit to where it's due. And, I don't want to give undue credit to somebody. It's just...
Yeah, but
it's funny how things work.
One of the founders, that was really awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's important, I think, to do that kind of stuff, because as a high wage earner, you sort of have this responsibility to give back to the community. And I'm sure there's plenty of high wage people out there that don't see it that way, But whatever. I mean, we live in America. You can do whatever you want. It's
powerful. I mean, if you can take 10 grand and get 70 people healthcare, that's trippy to me.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And
that's one surgery in America.
If that, I don't even think you could cover one for 10 grand.
That's maybe two.
Maybe
two at the best.
Yeah, there's probably some doctors out there that would do things on a cash basis that might do it for that price. But if they're billing the insurance company, that insurance company's getting billed way more than that. It's insane how much healthcare costs. But we don't need to get into that. This is a real estate investment show.
Yeah.
So, you're still involved with the church, or no? Like the church that you are pastor at?
I'm a part of a church, but I'm not in leadership.
You're not leadership at this point, so you're just a regular guy that shows up and regular member of the community.
Yeah.
But you've been a part of a community as a leader in the community, and you recognize how different that is from being a regular just member of the community, right? So, as a member, what do you find that you can do to sort of help out the leadership?
In church specifically?
Yeah, or I mean, it's really any community, because communities are very, similar in a lot of ways. But
yeah, it's a good question. In church, it translates, because in church, people think the old model of what the Roman situation handed down was clergy and spectators. Mm-hmm. So that kills it. It's like one person doing all the work and 80 people sitting there watching.
Right.
In the old model, average church would be 100 people. But in any organization, if that's happening, I mean, that thing will fail, or that guy will get burnt out, or that lady.
Right.
And so really every person being a member, participating and using their gifts, as you've seen in your business, different people have different skill sets. It ends up being like Ocean's 11 or something, where you need somebody to do this, you need somebody to do that. And when you compile that and you composite a good team, it's pretty powerful.
It is.
On anything.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's like that on the faith side with people having different gifts, and it's like that on every other side too.
Yeah, and I think it's an important thing for people to really see. And if you're not a member or if you've never been a part of the leadership in a community that you're a part of, it's really important to do that, especially if you're going to be a real estate investor. Because I always liken it to people as being a conductor of a band. Mm-hmm. You're the guy with the baton at the front of the room, and you're kind of, you have there's so many different things that happen in a real estate deal, and if any one person does it, they're going to get burnt out. You can do 2-3 deals, maybe 4 deals a year as a solopreneur, somebody that's doing every aspect of the job themselves. And I mean, you're going to the job sites and putting on your tool belt and doing work yourself too. You're doing it all. It's one person could probably max out at 4 deals a year that way. Mm-hmm. And
a lot of them do it that way.
There are.
And they do that lower volume, and maybe they're happy with it, and that's fine.
Yeah, and it's, it has its rewards, because I've done it. I've done it before that way. And it's rewarding in one sense, because in my world, I don't get that sense of accomplishment every single day. A buddy of mine, he's a flooring contractor, real good friend of mine, best friend or whatever. And he lays down flooring. And at the end of the day, he's like, I get to look at this thing that started out as this ugly pink carpet from the 70s, which is now, some beautiful tile that he put in. And he can look at that at the end of the day and say, I did that. He has that sense of accomplishment. He gets the dopamine hit in his brain or whatever for, he's proud of himself. And I don't get that much, because for me, it's my gratification has to get delayed quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Let's just say I was working on a loan file, and, these people really need this deal to get done, and I'm excited to do it for them, but it might take a couple weeks, and I don't get the dopamine hit for, putting this thing together. And, not that I get a big one anyway when I close a loan, but,
I do.
You do? Yeah.
No, but it's a lot better for us than it is for like a regular mortgage broker because they're dealing with like a 30-day, 60-day wait.
Yeah, exactly.
So for us, it's like 2 weeks. It's okay.
I know. Some people, like the mortgage guys, are like, yeah, okay, with your 2 weeks.
You can't wait 2 weeks.
No, I can't. I'm an American. Come on, I have an attention span of like 12 seconds. So
it's definitely more geared for us because little ADD here.
Exactly.
So.
What were we talking about?
I need that dopamine hit like within 2 weeks or it's not good.
Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, like the deal's just going along and you forget all about it. It's like, you know what? It's just never going to close.
This one's not happening.
Even though it's like in escrow ready to close, you're like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Loan docs are ordered. I don't think it's going to close.
Yeah.
But so in the church though, that's kind of the path I was going down was sort of the community aspect of a real estate deal. Like the real estate world is a community of its own, and especially when you talk about like the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, like our group, it's a big community of people, and it's it's so much more than just like so many people come, I think, with this idea they're going to get like education or they're going to I don't know what they're planning to get when they come every single time, but I think what you really need to get out of it is the community aspect of it. Because even though the people we're dealing with might all be competitors in one way with each other, we're also supportive of one another. So like, even though I've bid on the same property as members of the club numerous times, and I've lost those bids and I've won those bids in some cases, but I don't hold it against the person that's also doing it. If anything, I'm like, hey, if Jim's willing to pay $140 for that place, he can go right ahead and pay $140. Like, I'm not going to pay that. I know my price is at $128 or whatever. If he wants to pay $12,000 too much for that house, he can go right ahead and do it. And sometimes I'll even talk to the people at the club, like, so why'd you pay $140 for that place, or why'd you offer that much? Like, what do you think it's going to be worth at the end? And I've talked to a couple people out of deals because I'm like, did you see the, whatever? Did you see that structure in the back? They're like, oh, actually, we didn't walk it yet. And I'm like, oh. Yeah, that's probably why you offered $140 because you didn't realize it needs like another $20,000 worth of work in the back. Yeah, like it looks good from the street, but as soon as you get to that addition they put in the back with the foundation sinking into that sinkhole, that's going to be a problem. So it's sometimes it's good just to have another set of eyes, and that's what a hard money lender is too.
Yeah,
like
I've had some borrowers say that they appreciate our eyes on it.
Yeah, because you guys are going to see something that they probably didn't.
Yeah, we'll tell them like. We'll only lend X on this.
Yep.
And that kills it for them, and it's because the value that they saw wasn't what we saw.
Oh man,
that saves them.
It does.
Yeah.
But we could.
They don't like it though.
Oh, of course not. I mean, well, you think you got a deal, right? I mean, you're like, you're all excited. You're like, a seller finally said yes to me. Like, in my case, I'd be writing 100 offers a week. Like when I was doing like deals on a regular basis, I'd be writing 100 offers a week to get one a week. That was sort of my goal. And so, when a seller finally says yes, you're like, you get kind of excited. You're like, oh, I got a deal. But, maybe you didn't look at the numbers right in that deal. And certainly in the beginning for myself, it was like I wasn't the best at valuation. So, I might be a little off on my ARV. I think this place is going to sell for, $300,000, but in reality, it was more like $275, and so I made the deal. It worked at $300, but it wasn't ever going to sell for $300. So, for me, a hard money lender in the beginning was a very helpful thing because they'd say, we did the appraisal, it's coming back at $275. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Did you not see this comp? And I'd argue with them and they'd argue back. But, he who holds the gold makes the rules. So, they were always wrong, by the way. No. But like, it was helpful to have that other set of eyes. And I know I've been that point of disappointment for a lot of people where they'd call me and they'd say, no, like it's going to sell for 400. I'm like, I just don't see it. Could you get 400? Maybe, there's a chance. Yeah. But I don't lend based upon what it could do. I lend on what it will do, and that was a hard concept.
You have to play conservative because there's so many things that could go wrong.
Exactly.
That's what the lenders are doing. And that's what you're going to do if it's your own money.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not trying to be careless with your money.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it to not make any money.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done loans, where we've lost money, we've made money, we've broken even. Like I don't do it to break even or lose money. That's not the purpose. So
yeah, it's too much work.
I like those to be the ones that happen very rarely. Like the idea is to do this and to make money, and I want the borrower to make money. Like there was some cases where they're like, well, what if I just put in another $10,000 out of my pocket? And I'm like, don't. I'm not going to do the loan if you have to put money in because I don't want you to do it, because if the deal, actually, I wouldn't say if, I would say when this deal goes south and you're about to lose that $10,000 you just put in, you're going to be mad at me because I took it from you. You know, and that's the way I looked at it, is that if you're actually going to put more money in so that you can close it just for the sake of closing it, you know, you're going to get mad at me later on when I have to foreclose.
Yeah.
So, you know, a hard money lender I felt has always been a good idea to have around, because they will look at the deal and talk you out of it. You know, help you divorce yourself from a bad deal, because people would get married to them. I know you've had probably many conversations with people very similar to that, where they're arguing their value, and you're like, it's just, that's not the value. You know, like,
yeah. And I don't get to call the value, but my bosses do, and then, you know, I just have to be the messenger of bad news if in a situation like that.
Yeah.
And they can argue, but, you know, my principals, they're personally invested in the company. They're not, it's their money. They care.
Right.
They're not, this isn't some like huge Fortune 500 thing.
Exactly.
This is like real private money.
Yeah. And if a deal goes bad, it's their money they're losing, and they're going to look right to you.
That trust them.
Exactly.
So it's about stewardship. It's really cool. It's a cool thing. I think it's about wisdom, and it's about making good decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Plus, I mean, you know, like for us, like our client is the borrower, so, you know, we want a good borrower. You know, and like sometimes it's
and they're
hard.
out there.
They're out there.
A lot of them are awesome.
And sometimes you don't want to lose a good one. You know, so like if you're like, dude, if you do this deal, you're going to lose money, and you're never going to do another deal again. You know, we're not going to lend to you probably, because, you know, my guys are going to say, no, he did that terrible deal, we lost all this money. They're not going to want to lend you anymore. So, you know, don't do it. It would be better for you just to not do it. Walk away. It's a bad deal, you know. And a lot of people, like, it's like they get so excited they finally got one, and it's not a deal, and it's hard. It's, you know,
it's hard because usually the ones with less experience, and then they're more heartbroken.
Right.
Like I had one of my first was in they came out of one of the guru classes, and they found a deal, and it fell apart, and they were so heartbroken. I don't think they even did another deal.
That's the worst.
I mean, they just thought they had it, and they, you know, we required that they put more money down after we had a valuation on it with the appraisal. Yeah. It wasn't our fault. Like, it was a third-party appraisal, and they didn't like to hear that, and I think it took all the wind out of their sails. They thought they knew how to identify a property.
That's tough. I mean,
but you got to persevere in this business to do it.
It's true.
There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be, you know, everybody. I mean, I've heard it from my founders. They're like, if any flipper tells me he's never lost money, I'm not going to trust that guy.
Oh, yeah. No, man. I'd love to talk less about how much money we've lost, you know, on deals.
Yeah, but it's so real. It's so honest, because if you've done any volume, you couldn't have had all wins, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
There's just too many variables.
There was a point in time where I'd had no fails.
A good record?
I think I'd done probably at that time maybe 60 deals I think I had under my belt, and I'd never had a loss. Wow. You know, so I was doing pretty good for a little bit, but eventually it happens, you know. Yeah. Something happens that you can't predict. I mean, you know, who knew a contractor would go rogue? Who knew, you know, all these other things would happen? Like, you don't know. It's sometimes something happens, and then you got to eat it. So we've only got a couple minutes left. So you probably want people to call you, I'm sure, like if they need a hard money loan.
Yeah, I'd love them to call me.
How do they get in touch with you?
They can call my phone number.
All right.
Which is 310-356-7393.
And you got a website?
Yeah, orchardfunding.com. They can email me at travis@orchardfunding.com.
And all that's spelled like you'd expect it to, right?
Yeah.
TRAVIS and Orchard, you know, all that stuff. So.
And then one thing we didn't talk about, the program that I got to get in there.
Got to get it in.
We front a third of your rehab budget after closing.
Oh, nice. That's rare.
Yeah.
Actually, that's really nice. I didn't know that.
Up to $30,000.
Do you guys take brokers?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. We should do that. All right. I got like 1 minute. So awesome. That's awesome. So call you guys. Go to orchardfunding.com.
Yeah. And I'll get you a loan proposal right away if you have something.
Awesome.
We're getting more aggressive for people with high volume.
All right. Well, that's it for today. So we want to thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you all again next week at the Flip Flop Investor Show. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you.